Hi. So today we're going to go ahead and start with pages. You already have your foundation pages like this. You should have 4 of them. So we're going to need one of those. We're going to need your cut and scoreboard. We're going to need several pieces of black cardboards, 85 pound and 65 pounds, sorry, and our bone folder. Now I've gone ahead and made one so that you can kind of see what it is. And the first side is basically we put flaps like this. This opens because it doesn't have decorative paper. It's a little bit hard to move it. And then this opens. So that's side 1, and that's what we're going to do today. And hopefully we'll get side 2 done. And then side 2 is this. It has 2 pockets. It has 2 flaps. And then it has a nice big page where you can decorate. Now, later on in the videos, I'm going to show you how to make a 4-fold page to slip in there. It's very cute. We've done it in other videos, but we're going to go ahead and do it here. I don't have a decorated one, but all it is 2 pieces of cardboard, and it folds, opens, and this one's not good, but it comes back to the original picture. So that's something that we will do later on in our videos. Okay, let's set this aside, and these are our measurements. So the first one we're going to do, and you can use scraps for this. Most of our scraps will work. So I'm going to go ahead and get my scraps out. So we need to cut 2 at 3 inches by 1 inch, and then we're going to score here. So let me go ahead, and we need a 3-inch. Oh, perfect. That's my 3 inches. So I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to do 1 inch. And I'll do another inch. Okay, so we have 2 of those. And I'm going to score that, so I will turn this. And we need to put this like this, the long way across our ruler. And we're going to do at 1 1/8 and 2 1/4. 1 1/8 and 2 1/4. And then we'll fold those, burnish them down. And you'll want to put the short end in first, and we will glue that. So I'm going to put glue on the short end. And then I'm going to make sure that I didn't get glue on the inside to make it glue tight. Okay, no, we are good. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with this one. I will burnish those down, and I will turn it over, and the short tab gets glue. And then I'll check and make sure that it's not glued to itself. Okay, so there are those 2. I'm going to put them right up here so we have them. So then the next one we want to cut is, we want to cut 2 at 8.5 by 1. So I might have, I'm going to open this up just a little bit so that I have 8 inches. And, oh, perfect. So this is 8.5 inches this way. I'm going to cut it down. No, it has to be 8.5 inches, sorry. So it's 8.5 inches, and then we want 2 1-inch strips. So I will put my paper here, make sure. That's 1. those two. Okay, so that was nice to have scraps. Make sure to keep all of your scraps. So then I'm going to score. And I want to do a 1/2 inch on each side. It says 1.5 and then 8, but 8 is just another 1/2 inch on this side. Okay. And I'm going to flip it and do a 1/2 inch on this side. Oops. So I have a 1/2 inch on both sides. And I'm going to put this away for just now and get out my paper. I need to put my pin back in my glue so it doesn't dry out. And we're going to burnish these down really well. So these two little pieces that you just glued together, we're going to put them on. Each one of these gets one. So I want to make sure that they get slid on. Oops, that's not going to work. There we go. There's one. And then we're going to fold. And there's two. Oh dear. Some days I'm the windshield, some days I'm the bug. Today I think I'm the windshield. I am not able, there we go. Okay. Okay, so there we have these two with the little flaps on. Now I want you to make sure that your hand can go through it, and so that your openings are on the right and left hand side. Not the top and bottom, but the left and right hand side. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take one of these and we want to put glue just on our folded part right here. Okay, and because you have this, I'm going to push it down and you can kind of see that it comes out a little past our belly band right here. So I want to make sure that when I glue this down, this end of our little slider is at the bottom. You want to have just a little bit of room. So I'm going to go ahead and lay that there, and then I'm going to adjust this so that I can glue it perfect right in place. Burnish it down. And then I'm going to go ahead and put glue on this side. And burnish it down. Perfect. So this is a belly band. And then this is going to be the hinge where paper is attached. And you want to make sure that it slides both ways perfectly. I need to get rid of that little bit of glue so it doesn't stick to my paper. Okay, I'm going to turn this around so that that belly band I just did is at the top, and I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to push this as far towards me as I can so that you can see there's a little gap. It's a little bigger than our belly band. And I want to lay that right at the bottom of my page. And what this does, it gives us, it's not overflowing the page. It looks a lot nicer. So then I'm going to glue this and I'm going to move this until, there we go. It lines up with this edge. Burnish it, excess glue, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so what you have is you have a slider, and I'm going to put that aside for now because we need to cut more pages. And the next page we want to do is a 7.5 by 7.5. So I'm going to give you a little tip. When I make boxes and things, I use a 1-inch strip by however long it is, and I fold it in half to make joining pieces for my boxes. So since it's 8.5 this way and I want 7.5, I'm going to go ahead and cut on the long ways first at 7.5. And this is just how I've learned to save paper. So there's my 1-inch strip, and while I have it here, I'm going to go ahead and score it, and then I throw it in a box to keep it for when I want to make another box. Okay, keep that. So we know this is 7.5. We want 7.5 by 7.5. Okay, and I keep my scraps. So there's one piece that's 7.5 by 7.5. And basically what we're going to do is, I'll put this aside, we are going to go ahead, move these sliders to the far end of one of your belly bands. So I have them down here, and I have them pushed out. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this page on top of this. So in order to do that, I want to put glue on these sliders. And then I'm going to try my best to get this as square as I possibly can. Okay, looks good. And then I will burnish it down. So what you have is you have the first part, and this slides back and forth. Stick. Okay, there we go. So we're going to set that aside, get our cut board out. And the next piece we want to do is the 7.5 by 8 inches. And we want to score on one 8-inch side, 1/2 inch. So again, since I want 7.5, I'm going to go ahead and put my 8.5 up here and cut it at 7.5. And I do this right away so that I remember this is not a scrap to be thrown away. This is one of my connecting pieces. Okay, so we have 7.5. We want to do 8. And since I already have it, I'm not going to turn my score thing. I'm just going to keep it held there, and I'm going to score. We're on the 8-inch side, and we want to score 1/2 inch on one side. So make sure that this is sliding to the right, and I'm going to pull it out a little bit so that I don't get glue stuck underneath here. And this is going to get attached to the far right side of that. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue on that. And then I want to make sure, sometimes it's easier to line up this side first. Yep, not quite. There we go. Perfect. Perfect is all I can get it. So we will push that, open it, and I'm going to burnish it some more. Now, later on, I'm going to put magnets in here because I've noticed this has a tendency to fall out when you have your album open. So I'm going to go ahead and we will do a magnet later when we get ready to decorate. I'm going to set that aside, get my cut board back out. And the last piece, I guess they don't need that. The last piece that we need is a 5 by 5.5. Now, none of my scraps are 5 inches or even 5.5 inches wide, so I'm going to have to use a fresh piece. And I've used 3 pieces of chipboard for this. So I'm going to go ahead, this is 8.5 by 11. I'm going to cut the wider edge on the 11 because 5.5 and 5.5 is 11. Sorry, yeah. And we're going to do 5 inches on this side. And you see me, I try to make sure that this line is lined up perfectly. So there's my 5 inch. I will keep this, and then I will flip it and do 5.5 inches. And this should be 5.5 inches. Yep, perfect. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and score both of these. Oh, I'm sorry, I only needed one, but let's keep that because we will need it for something else. Now I want to make sure that I have the 5.5 inch up at my ruler, and we are going to go ahead and score at 1/2 inch on one side. Fold it. Let me put this away and burnish. Okay, looks good. So if you pull your slider the whole way to the right, you have this little empty spot, and this is going to be decorated. All this will be decorated. What we want to do is we want to center this between our 2 belly bands and flush up to this left-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue on this. And I want to center it as best I can. Looks good. And flush, push, open, get rid of all that excess glue because that will ruin your album if that gets stuck to your paper. Okay, so we have one side finished. That looks great. Okay, so I am going to leave this on this side that I have finished so that when I get to work on the other side, I know how to flip it. Okay, that is page 1, side 1. We're going to work on page 1, side 2. So we need to cut several pieces. And I'm going to get my cut board out. And the first one we want to do is 7.5. We want to do 2 of these, 7.5 by 4.25. So one sheet will do this, and I am going to look and see. I don't think I have any. Nope, they're all 3.5 inches. So I'm going to have to do this. So again, because I used the 1 inches, I'm going to cut this at 7.5 the whole way. And I'm going to score it and then set it aside for another project. And again, like I said, this is just my way of knowing that this is not scrap that gets thrown away. You can probably just throw it in a box and remember, but yeah, I'm not good at that. So then we want to do 2 at 4.25. So I have my long side up. There's 1 at 4.25. I think I did 3.25. Nope, I did 4.25. Whew, I've done that. And then 4.25. So let's just set these aside for now. And let's remember that those are the good ones. So the next thing I want to do, since these are 3.5 inches wide, we want to do a 4.5 by 3.5 inch wide. This is going to make a pocket. So what I'm doing is I'm checking, and this is 3.5 inches wide. This is 1. of my measurements. So all I need to do is turn this and cut it at 4.5. This is just how we save on paper. There's one, there's two. Okay, so we can put these away for now. No, we can't. I'm sorry. Oh, we need to score. And we need to score all of them. So I'm going to take my 4.5 by 3.5 and I'm going to measure. Now, what you'll see I do is I underline whatever gets scored. And then I put a little picture to show me how I'm doing it. So on these, we're going to score on both the 4.5 and the 3.5 inch side. So first of all, I make sure that I have the 3.5 score. I flip it 1/4 of a turn and I score it. So there's one done. So this one, I am going to do the 1/2 inch and then I'm going to flip it the other way. And I will show you why. When you fold these, this is going to be put on one side of your paper, and then this one will be put on the other side of your paper. So that's why I flipped them opposite directions. There's those. Now these are our longer ones, and you can see I underscored the 4 1/4, and I'm going to go ahead and score on that side. So I want to make sure my 4 1/4 is up here. I'm going to score on the 1/2 inch. Same thing on this one. My 4 1/4 is up. Score on the 1/2 inch. Okay. Now we can put that away. I am so sorry. Sometimes I get a little bit ahead of myself. You'll see me do this. What I do is I put that little thing down and then I fold this against my table. It makes your folds just a little bit crisper. If it's a small piece like those corner pockets were, usually I'm pretty good. But when it's a longer piece like this, sometimes you can get them off. So I've scored these down. Now the other thing that we want to do with these little pockets is, and I'm going to show you a little trick. Generally, people will just cut straight across like this. I don't like to do that, and I'll show you why. I will cut a little bit to the right side and a little bit to the left side of this one. So that when I fold it, I will actually fold the side in. And this helps especially if you have a pocket that has both sides and the bottom. And then I will fold the bottom so that when you put something in here, it slides. You are not hitting the bottom. If you fold it the other way, a lot of times you will hit the bottom and not get it clear to the bottom of your pocket. So we want to do this side and then this side. And the same thing with this one. We want to cut a little bit to the one side of the square that we're cutting out, and then a little bit to this side of the square that we're cutting out. And so then we have two little pockets like that. Okay, so what we want to do, I'm going to set these aside for now, and I'm going to pull my foundation page. Now you want to make sure that it's kind of like this with our openings to the right and left. And when you have it like this, then we're going to just completely flip it over so that we know this is the bottom and this is the top. So the first thing we want to do is we want to glue these larger pieces onto our page. And there's one, and I want to get them as square as I can. Yeah, looks good. My husband was military, so he said good enough for government work. Oh, we don't work for the government. It's just too good. My husband is so cute. I love my boy. Okay, so then we want to take the other one and put it on the other side. Now, I am going to look at this, and it is not, if I put this parallel right here on the edge, it's going to overlap this just a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get my cut board out and take just a sliver, just a very small sliver. off this side. There we go. Let's try it again. It's kind of like in construction. You measure twice, cut once. Okay, that will not overlap. So I'm going to go ahead and put my glue on here. And then we will line this up as best we can on the edges. Push it down, open it and burnish it on the inside, and then close it. So we're just about done, guys. How nice. So take your little pocket and make sure that one of the folds is on the left and one is at the bottom. And so we want to go ahead and put glue on this. And sometimes I will go ahead, once I get a little bit of glue, I will push this down into that glue. And then I will put glue on the bottom. So we want to do the same thing. We want to go ahead and make sure that this is as close to the edges as we can. And if you have a little bit of a leftover mark, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Just get it as close as you can. Now I have glue coming out of there and I don't want it to affect anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe that off. Where is my... I don't have it. So I'm going to use this. It's already drying, which is okay. There we go. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing to this one. We're going to make sure that one of the tabs is on the right-hand side now and one is on the bottom. And so I'm going to glue the side. Push that bottom down into some of that glue so that it will start to hold. And then we'll put that. And again, we want to make sure that our pocket goes on properly. Okay, looks good. And I'm going to take the excess glue away. So there you have your first complete page. And like I said, we will make a little 4-fold card later in our tutorials that will hold this closed so that when it's in the album it won't flop open. Otherwise it'll keep flopping. And we are also going to put tomorrow, or the next time when we decorate this, we're going to put a magnet on here. You don't have to have the magnet. The first one I did not have a magnet, so you're okay. All right, I want to thank you for coming. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been knowledgeable for you, giving you some knowledge. And I hope you join me again. Thanks. See you next time. Bye-bye.